Welcome to the Budget Sub 4 hearing for Tuesday, March 11th. The first part of our agenda includes two vote-only items. We will wait until we have a quorum to handle those vote-only items. But in the interest of time, I'm going to suggest we get underway with the items to be heard. And the first item is labeled Issue 1 under the Secretary for Labor and Workforce Development. Specifically, it's the Employment Development Department, which has been the subject of much discussion and focus in the last year, including by the Assembly Insurance Committee. And should we go ahead and take roll now, since we have a growing committee? Why don't we go ahead and take roll?
Mr. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Morrell?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Present.
Mr. Nazarian? Mr. Wagner?
Here.
For the arriving members, we have not yet handled the vote-only items. We've gone straight to the items to be heard, issue number 1, and we have Secretary David Lanier here to launch us into that item. Welcome, Secretary Lanier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the invitation to be here today. David Lanier, Secretary for Labor and Workforce Development. And I do want to thank the chair as well as the committee members for the invitation to be here and talk a little bit about one of the main items in my welcome basket as appointment to secretary to the position. And it's been a topic of a great deal of my time and effort since I was appointed late last year. And I've relished that opportunity, and I'd like to first remark on the consensus around the status of affairs at EDD and UI. I don't think that I found, upon my arrival, no disagreement that our level of service to the public in the UI program was unacceptable. The executives EDD were clear on that. The legislature's been clear on that. The public has certainly been clear on that, and I'm very clear on it. So in early February, with the governor's approval, directed the department to take a series of actions to try to remedy that situation much more quickly than the course we were on. And I'm happy to report some initial improvements in our service delivery at UI, the unemployment insurance program, since those actions, and I'm optimistic for continued improvement. It's a bit of a Gordian knot in terms of the funding of that program from our federal partners, and the budget proposal from you for Jan 10 does request additional resources from the state, and I hope you and the committee will support that request. My letter of February 7th outlines significant additional resources needed to really, truly put us on track to deliver the services that the public fairly expects from the program. And there'll be a forthcoming request and may revise to support those services into the budget year. We were fortunate enough to identify some resources in the current year as a result of a sequestration cut not coming down from the feds. So we've been able to continue overtime for the first time in years, replace staff. The program, I think, is down over 1,300 staff since the height of the recession. And we're aggressively moving to implement improvements to the call centers in terms of the virtual hold, and probably most critically, to bring in additional resources on the IT side. And so that initiative is reflected in the actions the department's taking today, and will be continued and is proposed to be continued into the budget year. So, I'd like to just say one more thing, if I may. Well, a couple of things. One, I very much appreciate the enthusiasm with which the staff at EDD, from the executives to the rank and file, have embraced this and seized this as an opportunity. As I said at the beginning, the one consensus item here was the level of frustration on our inability to provide the services in the way we want. And I've seen that from the folks that are struggling to answer the phone and process the claims to the leadership team at EDD. I've certainly heard that loud and clear from the legislature, and I know you all have from your constituents, as have our public lines. So I appreciate the spirit with which people have moved forward. That I've asked and laid out an aggressive plan in terms of hiring and improving performance, and it will take all hands on deck. So that's the plan going forward. I will say in the mid to longer term, there's a lot of work that has to be done in this program. The department has procured a grant from the federal government to do a business process reengineering initiative. It's a program that the chief deputy oversaw a similar effort in the tax branch at EDD, and has my full support in the UI branch. That's the kind of real rethinking of how we deliver services and how we're being efficient. It builds on a great deal of work that was done this summer to identify tens of millions of dollars of savings in the program. Unfortunately, those savings were not enough to increase our resources to manage the workload. So with that.
Thank you, Mr. Lanier. You've brought forward a pretty aggressive plan to request more resources and a schedule for improvement, which is really heartening and impressive. In the next 60 days or so, you've said that you'll be bringing forward additional information and possibly request for more resources. Is that the case?
Yeah, the Department of Finance did issue a letter to the legislature that identifies sustaining the moves that I've directed in the current year, a request to the legislature to sustain those into the budget year. We're still refining those estimates and what the deliverables will be around them. My determination and the department's determination, the governor's determination, was we could not wait for the budget year to begin to address the problem. And as I mentioned, we are seeing a significant improvement in the number of calls that are being answered. We're not where we need to be. We're seeing some backlogs come down, and it'll be important to have those resources in the budget year.
Well, I think because you'll be bringing additional plans and requests for resources to us within 60 days or so as part of the May revise. Our staff is recommending that we hold off action today. But certainly what you've brought to us is a real good signal, and we'll look forward to hearing more details in the coming weeks. Committee members, do you have any questions or thoughts? And then we're also going to hear from Finance and the LAO, and we will invite the public to speak. We have a request from Ms. Martinez of the SEIU. But first, colleagues, any questions or comments? Mr. Mullen.
A question around just the calls being answered. As you indicated, more are being answered. But I guess at one point it was 1/3 of calls are being answered. Now it's 1/5. Do you anticipate getting back to at least that 1/3 standard that was sort of in place in 2012 and 2013? What will it take to get there? Timeline? Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
You know, I'm going to defer to the department to be particularly specific. I'll say when I issued the letter on February 7th, I was on the record and happy to continue to be on the record to say that our intention was to double, possibly triple the number of calls that we're answering. It's difficult to talk in percentage of the number of calls because, of course, that number moves around greatly based on what the workload is, what the unemployment rate is, and also what the level of attention to the program is. There was, we had a very difficult IT rollout this fall prior to my appointment, and it was an excellent PR effort for the program in terms of we got a lot of calls and we got a lot of people in a panic and we didn't do a very good job of answering those calls. But to answer your question, very confident we're going to be able to easily double, if not triple. That should put us back at or well above the level of service prior to the problems this fall.
And then just a quick follow-up, not necessarily on that issue, but how does California handle these things in relation to other states? I'm always sort of curious about best practices and what other states are doing, how they handle their unemployment insurance claims. Are we more or less par for the course there, or do you take the steps of reviewing how other states do it that have quicker turnaround times? Obviously, we're dealing with a major volume here in California, especially with the recession. But can you just speak to sort of how we measure up comparatively?
Sure. Couple of thoughts. One, we do have some unique circumstances in California. We are anywhere from 15 to more than 20% of the national workload on UI. And the department and myself, since appointment, have been working with other states and with the association of other states that run these programs to identify additional best practices. We've had the Federal Department of Labor, 2 different teams here in California, one from the regional office and one that got some press for first going to Florida and then coming here, in a conversation in terms of developing a short-term action plan, looking at other best practices from other states, and they've been helpful in that effort. In terms of how we compare to other states, we don't compare very well on most of our service levels metrics. I don't know that they're always measuring the right thing, but there's no sugarcoating. We've struggled to provide that service level to the public. The one place where we excel is in what the feds characterize as integrity. We don't make inappropriate payments very much at all compared to other states. We're I think, in the top 10, maybe the top 5. So very strong on integrity and anti-fraud, not nearly as strong in terms of getting those checks out timely and meeting other performance metrics.
Other questions or comments from the committee members? If not, let's hear from the Department of Finance, if there are any comments, and then we'll hear from the legislative analyst.
Mark Tollefson, Department of Finance. We would just like to, reiterate what Secretary Lanier, mentioned. We are currently continuing to assess the situation before us, and do plan on providing a subsequent proposal in the next 60 days for your review.
Good. And Mr. Nazarian had a question or a comment, sir?
I do. Thank you for your presentation, and I missed a part of it as I arrived a little late, but I just wanted to know, specific to certain industries, I have a disproportionate number of entertainment industry production folks, residents, who have jobs on a cyclical basis. They'll work for 6 months and then they'll be off. And every time that happens, during the prolonged wait, longer than what the industry affords, they have to go through the process of reapplying again. Have we come up with a system so that we can re-engage individuals constituents or clients who go through that process and they know they're in an industry that are going to be going through this process on a regular basis, to have something that allows them to shortcut the application process?
I think probably the wise thing is for me to defer to the folks that run the program, because I am not familiar with that particular issue. I would just say generally that we've struggled to provide the basics in this program, and to provide, some of our recent difficulties are as a result of attempting to do a better job providing online access to the program. So we know we've got a lot of work to do there, but let me have the department follow up with you on the particular industry question, if I might.
Thank you.
We're back now to the legislative analyst, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jenny Bella with the Legislative Analyst's Office. We agree with your recommendation today to keep this open, considering it is now a small piece of a larger, more comprehensive proposal. So having all the pieces at once we think is to your benefit in making the decision. We just additionally say that we agree with the comments in your agenda that suggests that you may wish to ask the department when they come forward with their request in May or in those 90 days to provide you with some information on how that increased investment is expected to impact performance levels at the department so that you can have an understanding of what that investment could yield in terms of performance.
Great point. I think the more we have measurable outcomes, the better off we'll be, and the department as well, and the public that we all serve. Any further comments from the legislative analyst? All right, and let's hear from the public. Mr. Ashley Martinez of SEIU had submitted a request to speak. Mr. Martinez.
It's his card, I'm speaking.
Okay. Thank you. Please stay. Yes, please. Thank you.
So I'm Margarita Maldonado with SEIU 1000. I'm the Vice President for Bargaining.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. And I must tell you that coming here today, it feels a lot better than the last hearing where we were bringing up this issue and having a conversation about how we're going to look at fixing the problems that not only our members were facing, but the community that we serve. And so much has changed since that hearing, and I believe a lot of it is because of the leadership of Secretary Lanier and the fact that he has really heard a lot of our concerns and ensuring that our frontline workers were able to participate and outline what some of the problems that they were facing and how potentially they could be resolved by instituting simple changes. And I don't know if you mentioned the fact that he did have some of his leadership go into the offices where our members work and engage in conversation with them, and so that was very much appreciated. And it helped, I think it'll continue to help move through the process so that we can get the right solutions in place so that that service delivery can definitely be improved. And so we really appreciate the partnership that is developing here and having the right conversations with the right people in the room and building the kind of recommendations that are going to get us beyond this really big problem that we have here and build an infrastructure going forward so that we can say we are proud that we are leading the country like we lead in so many other areas in this specific area of UI. So our perspective, there's a lot of work to be done, and I think the Secretary has been really honest with saying, yes, that work has to be looked at, and a plan has to be put forward that's going to be comprehensive enough. And we really are just looking forward to this continued partnership. So I appreciate the leadership, and hopefully we'll be coming with more good news in the future.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us, the partnership that is underway and getting better. It's really heartening to hear that, and it's the way things should be. So thank you very, very much. And did you want to add something, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation. Mainly here to echo the comments of Secretary Lanier and SEIU about sort of where we are now. From the perspective of an unemployed worker, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone here with the district office that for many of them, the system needs, frankly, just more people there answering the phones, that the infrastructure there just, it doesn't match up with the need that's out there. And as mentioned, this is one piece of a much broader effort to make bigger reforms and broader reforms to the unemployment insurance system. But one aspect of it that it seems like everyone can agree on is that we just don't have enough people there. We just don't have the capacity that we need to address the issues that are out there. And so from the perspective of the unemployed worker, this will make a dramatic difference, whatever the specifics wind up looking like that come out in May revise, that it really does just go without saying that a big part of the solution to this problem, again, that we think everyone should be able to agree on, is just higher funding, smarter funding, doing whatever we can to make sure that we've got more people there to address the issues that come up for the average unemployed worker.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Those are excellent points, very well taken. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our guest speakers or for Mr. Lanier? And we have another guest speaker or a member of the public.
Michael Richard with ARP. Let me move the mic up. I want to speak on item 7100 of the EDD budget, which is the paid family medical leave program. As we look at that, that program has really not been accessed. If they did a survey in 2011 where about 4 or 5% of the people that were eligible actually were able to take advantage of that program. And we think that increased education and outreach is important, and we think that you should use the state disability insurance funds, which are employee funded, to raise that awareness and visibility. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Lanier on the EDD budget? And the staff is reminding me that we intend to hear this subject again probably in late April, and the date will be forthcoming, but that's our plan. Christian, do you want to get any more specific on that, or is late April specific enough? Okay. Okay, good. Mr. Lanier, thank you very much. Okay. We'll go back to the vote-only calendar. Issue 1 and Issue 2 will be taken separately. And let's, is there a motion on Issue 1? We need a motion, or we have a motion. Is there a second? We're on Issue 1 under vote-only, item 2240, the Housing and Community Development Department. Roll call vote, please.
Daley?
Aye.
Morrell?
No.
Mullen? Nazarian?
Yes.
Wagner?
No.
All right, and Issue 2, also an HCD item, and this is vote only. We'll need a motion. There's a motion and second on Issue 2. Roll call vote, please.
Daley?
Aye.
Morrell?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
Nazarian?
Yes.
Wagner?
Aye.
Good, thank you. And we'll now proceed to the last 2 items on the agenda. Under items to be heard and discussed, Budget Unit 2240, Housing and Community Development Department. The issue is awards for the Housing-Related Parks Program. And please go ahead and summarize the proposal, and then we'll hear from the LAO and Finance. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Randy Deems, Chief Deputy Director, Acting Director of HCD. The parks, the proposal before us is related to the Housing-Related Parks Program, which funds local governments for approving affordable housing in their jurisdictions. It's a bond-funded program from Prop 1C. The proposal here is essentially exactly the same as what was proposed last year. It's $25 million local assistance appropriation. Last year we were asked to, the action taken was to make that a one-time appropriation, so we'd come back to the committee this year. Part of that, the rationale there was that recent legislation had been changed to expand the criteria for eligible projects, and so that we could reevaluate exactly what the demand is and what the impact of that legislation was. Notable developments this year is that after this budget was proposed, applications came in within the last 2 months or so, and the final tally is that there's $77 million in applications for that $25 million NOFA that we put out, or funding round. So the funding in the current year is not sufficient to cover that. And then obviously, it's probably good for us to reassess exactly what we're requesting in the budget year. So we are working with Department of Finance on exactly that, figuring out what we should estimate as the demand going forward, and we'll be bringing that forward later. So we do appreciate the staff recommendation of holding this open.
Again, the staff recommendation is to hold this open, awaiting revised numbers in May. Any questions or comments from committee members? Are there any comments from members of the public on this item? All right, we'll go right to the Department of Finance. Any questions or any comments or clarifications?
No, we agree with Mr. James, and we do agree that we should revisit the appropriation to allow them to fully fund the applications that have come in at a greater than anticipated demand.
Good, good. All right, thank you. LAO, any comments or observations?
Chaz Alamo with the LAO. We also anticipate for working with the Department of Finance and with the department to review sort of this exceeded ask for this round and return to you with more information.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to all of your proposals and analyses in 8 weeks or so, approximately 8 weeks. This is the proposal is to hold action, so we don't need to vote on that. Thank you very much. And if you could go to the next item, the fund consolidation and trailer bill language.
Right. This is simply sort of a technical cleanup. HCD has administered a wide number of programs that have established various funds over its lifetime, and this proposal is simply to eliminate 3 funds that are no longer required, but certainly drive administrative workload as we continue to have to do financials and accounting work on these funds. So the proposal is to eliminate those funds and transfer any residual funds to the successor funds that are currently identified in statute.
All right, thank you. Any questions on that proposal, Mr. Mullen?
I guess just curious why you're suggesting you go to the general fund and not the housing and rehab fund, for example, and keep it in the housing arena. Just curious.
So the proposal just puts the money to the current successor fund, and given general fund considerations, so those that went to the general fund, it's planned to go there. It's de minimis amount of money. It's about $150,000. I think the administration would be supportive of it going wherever the committee chooses to put that.
Did you have something to add to that? Oh, okay, okay. Finance, anything to add?
We just wanted to add that the successor fund in the statute was not named, therefore, by default, it goes back to the general fund. But we would be open to other opportunities that the committee would like to seek to transfer those funds to something for whatever purpose you intend it to be.
Good. Thank you very much, LAO.
And we have no issue with, obviously, diverting those funds or transferring them to the general fund. It's a policy question if the committee wants to keep them in the housing arena.
Beautiful. Well, we'll have some choices to make then in May. Any other questions or comments? This is a hold open item, so unless there's anything else, we will move on. Thank you very much to the HCD folks. Committee members, our next meeting is a week from today. We'll be hearing from the Department of Industrial Relations and the Department of Veterans Affairs regarding their budget proposals. And then on Thursday of next week, upon the adjournment of session, we'll have a joint hearing with the Select Committee on Government Efficiency, Technology, and Innovation. There's a great title of a select committee. And Specifically, we will have the California Technology Agency Director, Carlos Ramos, presenting his annual strategic plan. So we expect a very interesting informational joint hearing on Thursday. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.